Hello, this is Derek Hansen, and what I'm going to talk about today is approaching the running demands of the Hyrox Challenge competition. So I was asked by my good friend Ryan Chow at Reload Physical Therapy and Fitness how I would approach this Hyrox Challenge, and I didn't really know much about it, to be honest. From what I gather, it was started back in Europe a number of years ago and has become more popular now in North America. And so I looked at what's going on with this challenge, and it's ominous. I don't know if I would ever try it, but certainly you start with a 1 kilometer run, then you do a 1 kilometer ski ergometer, then you're back doing another kilometer run, then you're doing a sled push for 50 meters, then another 1 kilometer run, then a sled pull with a rope of 50 meters, another 1 kilometer run, burpee broad jumps for 80 meters, then another kilometer run, then a rowing ergometer for 1 kilometer, seems to be a popular distance, then another 1 kilometer run, then a farmer carry for 200 meters, then another kilometer run, then a sandbag lunge for 100 meters. I would be sore after that. 1 kilometer run, and then a med ball wall push 100 times. So that's pushing the ball up onto a wall, certain height, 100 repetitions. And then you're done. So that's quite the challenge. Like I said, it's probably going to take you, if you're at the top, you're probably going to take just under an hour. And I think that's what the records are. And on average, I think people are finishing in over 1.5 hours, so over 90 minutes, and probably even longer, especially if it's the first one. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about the running portion and how to prepare for that and how I would use my unique approach. If you look at what's going on in this challenge, is there's a significant amount of running, and I would classify it as aerobic capacity running, so you have to have a good aerobic system. This is long distance running. It's 8 kilometers total, so you probably have to prepare like a 10K runner or even a half marathon runner, considering that you have other strength endurance requirements here. But I would say the biggest bang for your buck would be to focus on the running, at least initially. If you're starting this out, by all means, do all the strength training requirements, but really get a good running base. And that's what we're going to talk about, how I would approach the running. And even if you are advanced and you've done this several times, probably if you don't necessarily have a running or track and field background, I would still say that the running area is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck if you want to improve. So let's go through my process. Okay, so I'm going to approach this from a weekly planning point of view first, and how I'm going to divide up my work. And I would say I would attack this from 3 different points of view, and 2 of those are the running approach that I'm talking about. So if you look at how I've divided up, you're going to have interval training. That's going to be shorter distance runs, probably higher than your race pace, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to really focus on that. The second one is long, slow distance run, LSD. Not shrooms, but long, slow distance runs. And those are going to be at a steady state pace, probably even slower than race pace, and where you keep your heart rate in a certain zone. But that's also important for improving aerobic capacity. And then finally, you'll have specific strength endurance, which will be the exercises in between the runs. I'm not really going to talk about that. There's a lot of great resources out there. I just watched a video from Luca Hocevar and Joel Jamieson where they talk about the general approach to training, and they really touch on this very specifically, and they do a good job. So check that out on YouTube. But knowing that everybody has a finite amount of time in their week to dedicate, here's how I would divide it up. I would probably do 2 times per week the interval training, and I'll talk specifically about how I would do that. I would probably do another 2 times per week some sort of long, slow distance run to steadily build up aerobic capacity. You can do other activities, biking, rowing, all those sorts of things to build up aerobic capacity, but this is specific, and I would dedicate 2 times per week. And then strength endurance, you might do 2 to 3 times a week, but it depends on how you divide that up. You might do 2 sessions, which are lengthy, and you cover all the exercises, or you might microdose and do maybe 3 to 4 sessions where you subdivide things out and you focus on specific exercises and you spread it throughout the week. I'm not going to really get into that, but I want you to know that there are some options there. So on the interval training side, I'd probably divide it into 2 separate days, attacking it a little differently. I would probably focus one day where we're really focusing on 200-meter distances and we get those intervals in and build those up at much faster than race pace. And then another day, I would focus on 400-meter or quarter-mile intervals, and again, focus on getting those times down faster than race pace and start accumulating them. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. On the long, slow distance, maybe something that's about 20 to 40 minutes one day. You can start a little shorter and build it up, and then maybe something a little longer, which would be 40 to 60 plus minutes, long, slow distance, and really develop that aerobic system. But I would probably subdivide that so that you're doing maybe one shorter day and one longer day. So what I'm going to focus now on is really the 2 interval days and how I want you to approach that. And the other thing I would probably do is on each of these interval days, I would focus on some shorter speed, probably around 30, 40, maybe even 50 meters, where we're focusing on maximal speed and technique so that that speed can transfer to those runs as well. So I will show you how to organize that on those 2 days and really make this add value to your overall 1 kilometer performances. So if we look at your 1 kilometer distance, I like subdividing it up. So 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters is basically going to be 5 200-meter runs, or 2.5 400-meter runs. And I like those distances because if I go to a track, we know that most tracks are 400 meters in one circumference, and also we can subdivide that into a 200-meter distance, and those are very popular training distances for competitive runners. So this is what we're going to work with. And there's also lots of good data around quarter mile times, 400-meter times, and how it corresponds to an 800-meter performance, a 1,000-meter performance, a mile performance, and beyond. So I like to focus on this distance to develop our pacing. All right, so I've created this crazy table back here, and the whole idea is I am trying to come up with target times for people when they run their 400 or their 200 intervals. And how I came up with this is I did some research, and there's a lot of research out there on what's called anaerobic speed reserve, and that is the difference between the velocity when you hit your VO2 max, so maximal oxygen uptake, and that's the difference between that velocity and your maximal velocity running a short sprints like a 30, 40, or 50-meter sprint. So for somebody like an 800-meter runner, they've looked at the anaerobic speed reserve and looked at the difference between their velocity at VO2 max and their velocity when they're running as fast as they can. And they found that some of the higher performance athletes had a bigger difference there. So they were quite fast compared to their race pace. And what that speed difference allows, that speed reserve difference allows you to run more relaxed at your race pace and have overall better running economy and efficiency. So running faster is a good thing. So that's what I've looked at here is I've looked at what different times would be for that 1 kilometer distance. So if somebody wanted to run a 3-minute 1 kilometer and keep doing that, then I know what their interval time should be. And if it's 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5:30, and 6 minutes per kilometer. And a lot of people might be around here, around this 4 and 4.5 minute. So let's look at 4 minutes. So if I want to run a 4-minute per kilometer pace, then my 400-meter split, one lap of the track would be 96 seconds or 1:36. So in order for me to do that comfortably, I looked at, okay, well, what is a personal best in the 400 going to allow me to run that? So if I wanted to run 96 seconds a couple of times around the track for something like an 800 meters or 1,000 meters or a 1,200 meter, then I should probably be able to run 480 seconds, right? So if I'm running at a 72-second lap pace to run 3 minutes per kilometer, then I should at least have the ability to run 60 seconds for 400 meters. So if you look at somebody who's a world record holder, like I looked at Sebastian Coe, who held the world record in the 800 for I think at least 20 years, and the 1000 as well. And so Sebastian Coe had a personal best in the 400 of 46 seconds, and I heard he ran some relay splits in under 46 seconds, 45. So he's running at 46 seconds in order to run splits that are on average around 52 seconds, 53 seconds in order to run a fast 800 or a fast 1000. So that difference between the 45-second best and his 52-second pace is quite incredible. So that's what we're trying to look at here. So if I know what you can run 400 in, then I can start planning on how much slower you can run when you train to work on longer distances. So if I'm bundling 400 intervals, so I say, hey, I want you to run 3 400s with a couple of minutes break, I may say, I want you to run 10% slower, because that seems to be the pace that allows you to run consecutive 400 meters without gassing out too much. So if I drop by 10%, so if I'm running a 60-second personal best, then in my training intervals where I'm getting breaks, I may be able to repeat 66-second 400 meters in training. And so I've also looked at 200s as well. And all I've done with the 200 is I've taken this time here, I've halved it, and then knocked off another 10%, so it's a little faster. So it's a shorter distance, we can run a little faster pace. So I might be doing 30-second 200s in order to get ready for my 3-minute 1 kilometer distance, right? And down here it might be 45 seconds in order for me to get ready for my 4:30 1 kilometer race. So for the 4:30 kilometer person, which has to run in 1:48 seconds per kilometer, I assume that their 400 best is around 90 seconds. So then we can develop a reserve by running at 99 seconds per 400 meter or 45 seconds per 200 meter to make us efficient to run 108 easily. So this is generally just a guideline. I've created these numbers so that when I create training plans for people, I kind of know where I want them to run their intervals in. Okay, so you can do that as well. And if you work with me, then I come up with a customized plan to make sure we're hitting the right numbers when you're doing your interval training, and we're not wasting time, and we're making sure that you're getting the most out of a speed reserve. But certainly understanding what your goal is for running that 1 kilometer, and then coming up with a plan to hit the stride frequency and the pacing that you need in order to do this easily and get these lap times is really important, right? There's a neuromuscular component to training your body to run fast. And anybody who runs long distance well actually runs short distance fast as well. And there's been correlations between, like I said, running a 50-meter sprint and your performance in something like an 800 or a 1000. So I want you to be training those 400s and those 200s much faster than the pace that you're racing at. All right, so this is kind of what I call my divide and conquer approach to working with intervals and getting you to run race pace for some of your races, whether it's an 800, 1000, 1500, but you can start subdividing things, doing these split runs, and I'll show you how we do that. So if we look at this example of the 200s, there's different ways we can do this. We can go run a 200, and then you can take a break here. Maybe you take 3 minutes. Then you run another 200, take 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, right? So you've done 5 200s, which is equal to 1 kilometer. But because you've taken 3 minutes here, you can run these much faster than race pace. So remember I said 30 seconds? You could probably run these in 30 seconds each if you're trying to hit that 3-minute pace per kilometer, and you can have a very high quality run at a good velocity. Now, another way to do it would be, well, why don't I combine them so that I can run 1,000 meters? And you might do that by giving yourself 30-second breaks. So instead of that 3-minute, we go 30-second breaks here, right? And you can still run these faster than race pace because it's not a full 1,000 altogether, but it's subdivided out. So you might run these in, say, 40 seconds, you get a break, 40 seconds, get a break, 40 seconds, get a break, 40 seconds, get a break, 40 seconds. And maybe you're trying to hit a 47 second per 200 pace when you're actually running the full kilometer. But by giving you short breaks, it allows you to run a little faster. And then what we can do is we can sort of combine this concept and go over here, and maybe you run a full 400, and then you run a 200 after 30-second break, and you start combining it, and then it might be 4 plus 4 plus 2, which is still 1,000, and you start assembling things together. In this case, I might do 400 plus 400 in the first set, 800 meters, and you might be able to get away with just running 800-meter intervals to prepare for 1,000 if you don't have a lot of time and you don't want to put in too much mileage. But you could do a 400 with a 30-second break and run another 400 and then get as much as 8 to 10 minutes here before you try it again. And again, you're looking at running, say, again, if I'm running a 3-minute pace, then remember that was about a 66 second there and then a 66 second here. And it might be you run 66 and 70 there, but again, still way faster than what's going to happen in your race. So there's a lot of different combinations you can do here to combine these to make sure that you're running fast, and then combine with your long, slow distance, which hits the aerobic capacity. You got your speed here, neuromuscular training, recruitment, pacing, right? So that when you get and run your 1,000, that everything feels easy. Like, hey, this pace of hitting 100 seconds per 400 meters is actually easy because I've been running them in 85 seconds or 90 seconds in training, and now I have this nice relaxed pace. So I want to take a much deeper dive into this concept of split run intervals and go through how I combine them and start making them into a whole 1 kilometer run. And then you'll get the idea of how running with faster paces can transfer into the full run if we do it in a gradual manner and we pick the right pacing times. So let's take a look. So what I have here is I have our 4 minute and 30 second per kilometer pacing goal. That's what we're trying to run, and that translates into 108 seconds per lap, per 400 meter lap, and that's 1 minute and 48, just so you have an understanding of that. And that's working off the assumption that we have a 90-second personal best in the 400, which is 1 minute 30. So we have some time there. We have some reserve that we can work with. So if we start with 200-meter individual runs with 3-minute breaks, I'm going to say I want that individual to run 40 seconds per 200, 3-minute break, and repeat it. So I have 6 reps here in this set. So the idea here is to make sure they can run this pace with a decent recovery time and repeat it. So once we get to that point, then we can start to combine them. And in this case here, it's a 200 plus a 200 with a 30-second break. And the expectation is run them in 45 seconds. So a little slower than these isolated 200s, but combined a 245 second, 30-second break, then repeat and run another 200 in 45 seconds. Then you get your full 3-minute break. And if you have to expand this to 4 minutes or 5 minutes, that's fine. And then we do it again. So 200 plus 200, 45 seconds each, 30-second break, 3-minute, and then we repeat. So you can see how we've gone from the individual runs here to combined runs. So they're split 400s, 200 plus 200, and we're trying to still maintain a reasonable pace. So 45-second pace per, so you combine that, that's a 90-second, which goes back to close to the personal best. But because they're split, it's going to be a little slower as 200s. And then the next phase would be running full 400s, and the expectation is 95 to 100 seconds. So still faster than the 400-meter pace for our full 1 kilometer, but we want them to run faster, have a 5-minute break, repeat it, same performance, 5-minute break, repeat it, and that would be a set or even a workout if we're just focusing on the 1 kilometer. And then we start advancing it. we start doing splits of 400 plus 400. So that's an 800-meter split with two 400s with 60-second breaks. And the expectation is to run those in 100 seconds each. So that's a minute 40 each. 8-minute break, then repeat it. 400 plus 400, 8-minute break, 400 plus 400 with 60-second break. You see what we're doing, and I've given an allowance here of 105, but still faster than the pace here, the race pace of 108. So then we go to a 400 plus 400 plus 200, which is a full 1 kilometer, but still split up. And you can see 45-second breaks between the individual runs, but the expectation is 100 seconds for that 400, and then 45 seconds for the 200. So again, that's going to be 245 seconds for the full 1K, right? So that's going to be 4:30, so 245 seconds is 4:05 for that 1K. So we are going faster here, but we do have these breaks. So still faster pace, 8 to 10 minute break, do it again, and conceivably you would probably do 2 of these, maybe 3 of these, but you're getting used to running 1,000 meters, albeit with some splits, at a much faster pace than what we're shooting for in the actual competition. And then over here, I've expanded it to straight 1,000-meter runs, just because we want to put it all together and see what we can do. And 105 per 400 meters is my goal, which is a 4:22.50, which is still 7.5 seconds faster than what we want here. So we're still trying to run these individually faster with 8-minute breaks. And then you can start adding, maybe you do 4 of these in that set or in that sequence. So you're like, okay, I can handle 4 of those in a row with reasonable break, maybe simulating the break that you would have between your runs, not having your strength endurance skills here. And then ultimately you could add those strength endurance events and maybe do 3 of these and see how you do. But you're just combining all the pieces together. So this was just a good breakdown of how I would do the splits and how I would make it work as we're doing our preparation. And do remember that on other days, if you're doing this 2 times per week, maybe 3 times per week, the warm-up might have some short sprints. Like I said, maybe 4x30, 4x40 to work on higher speed runs. Then that primes you before you do your intervals. And then on other days, you're probably doing your long, slow distance work to work on the aerobic capacity. And then it all comes together. So that's the whole idea here, is if you're going to go and run this Hyrox event and you're getting ready for thousands, you need to have pacing to run those thousands faster. And then you need aerobic capacity because you're doing 8 of them, 8 kilometers, and you need some mileage there to get ready for that. So combining what I've said here with your intervals will help you create that speed reserve to make it easier to run those single kilometer runs. We can get into a larger discussion of what I would do with the individual skills between your runs, but you may even want to combine that here. Maybe you do this workout, you do 66 seconds, 400, 30-second break, you'd run another 66 seconds, and then within this gap here, maybe you do one of the events. You do a sled push, or you do a lunge walk with a weight, and you're combining parts again before you assemble the whole thing. And would I do an entire Hyrox event as part of training? I don't know. I like assembling the parts. Maybe you do half of one or 3/4 of one, or you find a different combination. And then it's always nice to go to the competition and use the competition as training as well, because I don't think that you'll just do one of these. You'll probably do a series and you want to see yourself improve from event to event. Sometimes training is good, but sometimes competing is just as good as part of your training to get you ready mentally and actually have the specifics of competition. So don't think you got to get it all done in just your training before you. It's never going to be perfect. So just make sure you have an approach, and I'll be producing some training plans that are more specifically geared towards this event, at least the running portion, that you can try out. I thought I'd introduce these concepts, and maybe it'll get your mind turning over, your gears rotating in your head about how you can approach your training. So ask me any questions and I'd be happy to answer them, but at least this is a start. So good luck.